Oh, my bad. Hey, y'all. I was just sitting here watching the paint dry because that's what this episode was like. But we'll review it anyway. See you in a minute. Hey, 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 welcome back to Scared of Beautiful. My name is Plez. If you are new here, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, give me your comments down in the comment box and let me know what you thought about the episode. I personally felt it was a little dry, actually a lot dry, like some powder. If this is the way this season is going to go, we are headed down a long road in the wrong road on Married to Medicine. I know that COVID took a big hit and a big bite out of production with a lot of these reality shows. But I just really believe they have better film than this. I think they could have come a little bit better with the good doctors down in the Atlanta. But we gotta work with what they give us. This is the third episode for season 8, and it was titled New Year, Old Feuds. We'll see what those tired feuds are, honey. First, the episode opens up with just like a montage of what's going on with everybody. Contessa's kids are being fed vegetarian food. They don't like it. Toya, for some reason, has managed to break her phone and her iPad. Eugene is like, you'll be without for a few days. And just like the typical child she is, she can't handle it. Anila, we see her in a nice setting with her kids. They are very rambunctious all over the place. But I'm glad to have little kids back on the show again. Next, we see a series of the doctors. Doctors Jackie, Simone, and Eugene all giving their testimony on their frontline experience with the pandemic and COVID-19. As we know, Eugene is an emergency room doctor. He is really feeling the brunt of it. He talks about how he worries about contracting the virus and bringing it home. Although he has his PPP on, his gowns, the mask, the shield, he's still this close to patients that are severely infected with COVID. So far, he has been fine, but it is taking a real burden and toll on him. Next, we see Dr. Jackie and Dr. Simone as OBGYNs, both testifying that, babies don't stop being born. So although they are in a pandemic, baby Jackie just got home from delivering 6 babies. Simone is in the car getting calls about deliveries. But they talk about all the precautions that they have to take and how COVID has affected their daily practice. Eugene also talks about how, although now he's only seeing maybe 10 patients where he would normally see 20 or 30, those 10 are severely ill, and he's wondering what has happened with the heart attacks, the kidney failures, because as we know, we lived through it. People took quarantine so literally, and we were so fearful to go to doctors, to go to hospitals, that unfortunately people were staying at home with these severe illnesses, not wanting to get cross-contaminated with COVID, and in some instances died at home because they were afraid to go to the hospital and get help. I know we went through this, and so the people feel like they have to document it, but this part of the episode was a little triggering for me, especially when we get to the next part, which was Dr. Heavenly. We already know I am not a Heavenly fan. That's because of the personality that she has presented on the show. It's just not one that gels with me and my personality. But I will always talk about someone when they do good. And in this next scene, Heavenly does just that. We see her meeting with a patient who is getting her smile perfected by Dr. Heavenly Smiles. But this young lady's smile had been broken literally by police officers. She was a young black woman who was protesting in the wake of the George Floyd murder. She was peacefully protesting, and police officers, under the guise of trying to clear the streets, punched her in the mouth. And it was caught on camera. Blunt force trauma to her mouth, and unfortunately broke her teeth. She went and had some temporary work done before she could get to Dr. Heavenly, but Dr. Heavenly saw her story on the news and social media last summer and flew her out to Atlanta and gave her a new smile, complimentary, free of charge, on the house. When she finished, it was a gorgeous restoration, and I'm here for it. Kudos to Heavenly. Like I said, with the whole COVID flashback with the doctors, it was very triggering to see those videos of the peaceful protests and the trauma that we were met with for just peacefully protesting. I'm an 80s baby. I wasn't born in the 60s. But we've all seen the videos of dogs being sicked on protesters from the civil rights movement and water hoses and things like that. And here we were in 2020, 50 years later, still being unfairly treated by police officers for simply using our voice and our constitutional right to protest. So I was happy to see Heavenly perform that restoration for that young lady. I pray that brings her some type of comfort. I also hope she has a good lawsuit going against that police department. But it was just, it was hard to go back there. I don't believe in, hiding your head in the sand when things like this happen. But these things are traumatic. As a woman of color, a black woman in this country, constantly seeing your people being unfairly treated is a lot. I went to college and law school in New Orleans and lived in New Orleans for about 17 years. I was there during Hurricane Katrina. And I remember after Hurricane Katrina, there were several documentaries that were produced, some award-winning, and I bought them. I purchased them on DVD. But to this day, 2021, I have not been able to bring myself to watch those documentaries. I wanted them for preservation, maybe one day to show my children, because it was an important thing where Black people were also ignored in this country. But to live through it, and I know I had, severe depression from Katrina, not knowing if friends and family were okay, not knowing if you were ever going to see people, not knowing when you got back to the city what was going to be there left over for you, if anything. These things they leave an undeniable impact on your human spirit. And so that's why, you know, sometimes you all who know me from All About the Tea, when I talk about therapy, and I'll get into it more, my personal experience with therapy on this channel in the, you know, months to come. But these types of traumas are why therapy is so important. You know, PTSD is not just for people who were in wars. You know, it's for anything traumatic that happens in your life and you think it may not impact you, but it really does. And unfortunately, last year, 2020, was very hard, and a lot of us will need therapy for the ramifications of everything, you know, this global pandemic that had never been seen in our lifetime, how fast the world shut down, not being able to see people you love, and then to compound that with the racial and social injustice issues. It was a lot, y'all. It was a lot, but it's 2021. You are watching me, we made it. And we gonna keep making it. All right, let's get back to the show. Next we see Toya and Anila talking. They are both Aries. I like it. I am here for it. It is Ram season as well, y'all. We're here. We're here. We run things per the usual. So I was glad to see them and learn more about their friendship. They go on a tennis lesson. Toya tells us since she's moving to her new suburb, honey, she has been taking tennis lessons, usually 5 days a week, for at least 2 to 3 hours a day. And we see her get into the lesson. She thinks she is the next Venus and or Serena Williams. Anila, not so much. Anila's like, I just like the outfit. I like the cute skirt. I'm here. I'm having a little fun. But she wasn't the best tennis player. She'll get better with her lessons, hopefully. Rain ends the lesson and we move away from that scene to Contessa and Jackie touring Contessa and Scott's new medical practice that they will be running together. We talked about it last episode, y'all. You know, loving someone and working with them every day is a struggle. Even when you all are the most loving couple. Scott and Contessa have been going through lots of hardships recently in their marriage. And I just don't think them going together in this private practice at this time is really the best thing. You know, as we say, separation, a little absence makes the heart grow fonder. You know, we can get into a little argument. I need to miss you for a while. But if we argue, then we got to go to work and see each other. Then we're going to be bickering and snipping at each other with the nurses and the secretaries and everybody else be having their noses in our business. Ooh, honey, you saw Dr. Scott and Dr. Contessa this morning. Everybody in that office walking around on eggshells. No, reconsider, please. Jackie, upon hearing this information, tells them the same thing. She comes with her, you know, little dry shade. Y'all think Jackie is the good girl. I don't know how she had y'all food. When Contessa showed her that bathroom with the shower, she was like, well, I'm glad that she has this outfitted this way because she might be spending a few nights here away from home. Look, Jackie is telling the truth. Somebody might be sleeping in the office some nights. But she gives Contessa the same, you know, advice that I think any normal person that knows their history would give them. Like, do you think this is the best thing right now? She also addresses them needing to stay in therapy. And they do. You can't be too smart for therapy. If y'all could handle these problems on your own, they would already be handled. Next, we see Anila, her mom and dad come to visit from Savannah, Georgia, honey. And the way her mama came in, I thought they lived at least 3 states away. Mama bought literally everything and the kitchen sink with her. She bought a van full of stuff, food already prepared, bought a whole traditional buffet in their native cuisine. She packed up all the good Tupperware, honey, all of it, and put it in coolers and brought it to the house. Her dad, she talks about how her family came to America. Her dad came over on a student visa and got his degree. Then he went back to India, as was, the custom back then. He didn't break away from customs. So he went back and had an arranged marriage. His family in India presented him with a bevy of young available women, and he was able to have his choice. So he chose her mother and wanted to know if her mother could vacuum, because he wanted to take her back to America and start their life here in the States together. So that's what they did. Mom and dad come back together, and then they have Anila and her siblings. So Anila is talking about doing a rakhi tradition for their children, a party. It's an event that they're going to invite other people in the cast to, so that they can share some of their customs with everyone. Her husband comes home from a long day at work doing surgery and is not happy to see his house in shambles, food all over the place. He can barely get in the front door without tripping over things. Her mom immediately greets him and wants to know what type of surgery he does. He confirms, yeah, I do. What you think I do? I'm a, ocular facial surgeon, which, means he does a little plastic surgery, but mainly on the eyes. She wants to know, they've been married all this time. Why hasn't she gotten any free work done? Why do I still look like this when I have a son-in-law who does this type of work? Husband's not here for it. He's like, I got to get to my paying customers first. And then he, lets Anila know he is not happy with the state of their house. He goes to shower from the long day at work, comes back down, and is still irritated because they have food all over the counter. You can tell, he likes his house a certain way, and I don't blame him. But you do have to allow for a little when mother and father are there. They're older. You won't have them around forever. So, just appreciate. Learn to find the humor in it. Your children are getting to know their grandparents. Your wife is spending time with her parents. Just enjoying being one big happy family. I'm telling you, the stress isn't worth it. Not for something like that. Next, we see Toya with Eugene and the kids. And Toya, I love Toya, right? But this is one of my issues with these shows when we start getting into years 6, 7, 8, and beyond, especially when someone's been on there from the inception. I like Toya as a person, but as a character on the show, I feel like she's so stunted and stagnant. She has not grown at all. She lacks depth, and that's the nicest way I can say it. I don't judge her or her lifestyle, but I just wish she were evolving more as a woman. And in conversations like the ones that we see in this scene, you see how she's just staying still. So, per the usual, she complains to Eugene about her life as a stay-at-home mom. but you chose that life. This man is dealing with, again, a global pandemic, the likes of which no one has ever seen. He's watching people die daily, 14 hours a day. 14. Then his commute to work and back and forth. And you're complaining that he's not home enough and that you have to cook, although we see Eugene cooking, and clean and do laundry, which is what I thought was normal housewife stuff. And because of the pandemic, homeschool your kids. Like, girl, you got to learn how to pivot better. You got to learn how to shift and move. If for no other reason than you're modeling this for your kids. They need to see mom has it, not necessarily has it together, but that mom can move. And, when you complain like this, your children hear you complaining. And unfortunately, sometimes they take that as, I'm a burden to my mom. Just, think about that, Toya. Marinate on that for a little bit. There are mothers who would love to be in your position. You don't have to worry about working. Throughout this pandemic, there were mothers who still had to go to work and their kids were in virtual school and e-learning all day. And your kids are older. You might have to help with some homework and things like that, but you should not have to. When she was saying with Ashton, how she was having to force him to do his sentences, like, no. That kind of goes back to your parenting and your discipline. Because my mama didn't have to do that. If she had to say it too many times, go over homework too many times, I already knew what was coming. So I think you need to get a little more strict in your discipline. I'm not saying you need to beat them, but they have a very charmed and privileged life. The least they can do is do their homework. Anyway, she talks about oh Lord, she talks about how hard that is and how hard. Can you only imagine if I had 4 or 5 childs? She has 2 childs. And if she had 4 or 5 childs, and Eugene is like, honey, they're children. And even the boys have to look at her like, Mom, are you serious? And she has egg on her face because, she's mad that Eugene has corrected her. But, girl, I've peeped your background. I've been following you since the beginning of this season. You are a very educated woman. You had a career before Eugene, and you just seem like you've lost it. You want to live this charmed life, but then you complain about it. I mean, are your children cutting into the tennis time? I don't think I know it's editing and I know they chopped it up like that, but I personally would be like, I don't know if I want to complain about homeschooling my children when I just bragged last episode about getting on the golf course and hitting happy hour with the other ladies in the neighborhood every day. And then this episode, you do tennis 2-3 times a day. I'm sorry, your children that you chose to have are inconveniencing your leisurely lifestyle. Get it together, sis. Ugh. Next, we see Anila and family. They get ready to celebrate the Reiki ceremony. They're all in their traditional attire. It was a great thing to see. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but it was interesting to see how production is allowing her to share this side of her when they would not do it for Mariah. And I don't know if it's maybe because Anila is this is her ethnicity. and cultural traditions versus Mariah marrying into those traditions. But tradition is tradition. If Mariah was building her Black Adeshi family, as she would always say, why shouldn't she be able to embrace and show the culture of her husband, that she has also taken on in her marriage and the rearing of her children? It was just kind of interesting to see. Anila tells Toya that she has invited Contessa to the ceremony, and Toya's like, oh, that's interesting. Y'all don't know each other. And so she explains that, hey, I think this will be a good time for you all to make up. She was really cool with me at Heavenly's house and very nice to me. I don't see why you all can't be nicer and have a better relationship too. We'll see how that goes. Next, we see Quad. Honey, Miss Quad has entered the chat. Quad is here and on the scene. She goes to Dr. Heavenly's house to catch up. And she immediately shades Heavenly, and look, I'm sorry, I'm here for it. This is the kind of Quad that I like to see. She says that she doesn't understand why Heavenly has a 3-story closet, because her fashions are not 3-story closet worthy. Heavenly explains, this is where she shoots her YouTube show. She has a charcuterie board full of snacks for Miss Quad. And Quad says that she is dating. She has some prospects, but wants to let us all know that she's not sleeping with any of them. They don't get the goodies, but they are very well off and handsome. I hope they're better than the ones that Heavenly, hooked her up with before. Quad asks how the ladies are doing, specifically about Toya, and Heavenly wastes no time to get messy and show her the video, the recent social media live that Toya was on with Simone and Cecil. She shows her a video of a very, very drunken Toya who is talking about Quad coming around, filming in her little townhouse. She doesn't know what she has to offer. And so after showing Quad this, Quad is definitely offended. She had not seen that video before and commences to spill Toya's tea. She says that Toya has the nerve to talk about somebody's home when she had to beg, borrow, and steal to get the house that she's in. Beg, borrow, and steal, child. Okay. So she explains to Heavenly that Toya had to get a personal loan of $100,000 on top of the mortgage that she already took out to build the pool that we saw being constructed last year. It was messy, but that's what these shows are for, honey. I don't think Quad's lying. As I said before, Toya has not grown. They kept having all of these money struggles. And with Eugene being an emergency room physician, particularly in a market like Atlanta, he has to gross like $500K a year, if not more, with all of the overtime and things that he was doing. So first we saw that they were renting all of these extravagant homes. They couldn't get financed for another home before. Then they had the big tax issue. And then we finally thought it was like a Cinderella story. They had in the black party, celebrating them paying off of their taxes. Then they go looking for homes, and it seemed like Toya was in the right place because she was like, oh no, honey, that's out of budget. And then they decide that they want to build, but then they build this home that is gorgeous, but it's It's like, do you really need all of that? You have 2 children. You may have another. So, at best, you need 6 bedrooms. But all of this other stuff, you complaining about not being able to get any more Gucci bags because you're sending your children to a better school for their betterment in their mental health, where they're surrounded by more brown and black children, but it's $25K a year. Like, So did you really need the pool to the tune where you take out a personal loan of $100K? Come on, Toya. Come on, Eugene. Like, I need you to put your foot down. And as Quad said, like, everybody else says it too, you're going to work this man into a grave. But the gag is he's letting you. I don't know if he just don't want to be around the house or what, but I would not even want my husband to take on that level of stress. For what? For people who don't even like you. You are buying this house, doing these things for people who wouldn't pee on you if you were on fire. As we hear sometimes in these streets, it's not worth it. It's not. It's just not. It doesn't benefit you in the long run. And you keep trying to show people that you made it, but then stuff like this happens. Or like earlier in the year or last year when the house was put on the market. Keeping up with the Joneses, y'all. Whew. It's a disease. Lastly, we see Anila and her family getting ready for the party, and then the actual Reiki party. Simone shows up first, then Toya and Eugene come in their matching and coordinating outfits. Then we see Scott and Contessa. Anila immediately wants to pull Contessa to the side and tell her that, she wants to get to know her on a personal level so that they can develop a friendship, but that she also wants Contessa and Toya to get to a better place. Contessa is like, I thought Toya and I were good. Then we find out that they are not good. Toya is now upset again and has been offended by Contessa because Toya and Eugene had a holiday party at their new home and they invited Contessa and Scott, but one of the rules in the new house is that you take off your shoes when you come in. Contessa did not feel that request, did not think it was necessary, and didn't want to take off her shoes. Toya took offense to that and has been angry about that ever since. We see and learn more about Anila growing up as we get to the actual Reiki part of the party. And I really liked the tradition and what Reiki represented with the sister and brother giving gifts, exchanging symbolic, bracelets and things to each other as a sign of, I'm here for you. I will protect you for life. I have siblings, but they're all at least 14 years older than me. So I didn't grow up with another kid. I actually kind of grew up almost like an only child. So I always love to see people interacting with their siblings when they're so close in age and they develop those really deep bonds. I have bonds with my sisters and brothers, but I think it's just different when you grow up in a house with someone and you go through the whole, hugging and kissing and fighting 1 minute later and the sibling rivalry of it all. I just kind of wish I had that experience. So I was happy to see it and happy to see how other cultures purposefully create these bonds. Those kids were young, but because there was so much action in the ceremony, they will likely remember this. Plus, of course, they'll have pictures and now video to go back and remember when those times get hard, maybe, and when they are fighting as siblings do, what we meant to each other, what we symbolized to each other. It was a great thing to see. Unfortunately, as soon as that wonderful scene is done, they ask the kids to go inside so that the adults can talk. And we immediately get into Anila trying to broker some kind of peace treaty between Contessa and Toya. One, I don't know why Anila is doing. I know why. It's it's production. And I just wish production would stop playing with our intellect at this point. I don't know why they insist on forcing people to be friends or interact with each other who clearly are not. Contessa has been on this show now for 3 or 4 years. Her and Toya always bumped heads, pretty much from the beginning. They had one falling out. They never made it back from it. And I tell people this all the time. Yes, you can say, well, grown women shouldn't do that, but that's just not realistic, y'all. There are some people, their personalities clash. They do not get along. They will not get along. Stop trying to force a square peg into a round hole. They don't like each other. If they can manage to show up to the events and be cordial, great. That's all we need to see. Hey, girl, sit on my side. You sit on your side. Like, that's all we need at this point. We don't need them to be bosom buddies because it ain't going to happen. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So, Contessa basically says with COVID and everything going on, she's at a place in her life where she doesn't want stress or drama with anyone. Toya can't hear that because, again, Toya is selfish. Like, when it boils down to it, Toya is selfish. And so she was like, girl, don't come at me about no COVID. Me and my husband lived through COVID. My husband works the emergency room. Okay, but that's your husband. That ain't you. And Scott and Contessa are both doctors, so both of them are dealing with COVID on the front lines. So I'm not even a frontline person, and I have taken Contessa's view in life. COVID taught me a lot. And it taught me that if nothing else, life is short. I have no beef with anyone. And if they got it with me, they beefing by themselves. It's not that serious. Even if I don't like you, I'm not going to go out of my way to be ugly or mean to you. You just really don't exist in my world, honestly. But it's not about me. Toya immediately starts yelling, don't blame it on COVID. You were rude in my house. You don't respect me. I'm not having it. And yes, Toya, that's it. She doesn't respect you. She has said that 11 times. 20 different ways. She doesn't like you. She doesn't respect you as a person. She thinks you're silly. She thinks you're selfish. She thinks you're gaudy and flashy with no substance. I think if Contessa were to sum up her opinions from what we see on the show, that's what she feels about Toya. You know, we don't like to talk about it, but there is elitism in our community. There is classism in our community. And most of the ladies have always been very elitist and classist towards Toya. Is what it is. And if I were Toya, I would stop looking for validation in a group of women at 40 plus. I don't care what you think about me. Because at the end of the day, I'm at the same table you at. My house is as fabulous as yours. My closet is actually more fabulous than yours. My fashions are more fabulous than yours. Whatever. You've made it, girl. You do not need their acceptance, approval, validation, none of that ish. Your husband loves your dirty drawers. You got 2 beautiful children. Make friends with the other women as you are doing in your suburban life that live that housewife lifestyle. A lot of working women, if we're being honest, do not respect housewives. Is it right? No. But it's reality. The sooner we get there, the better we'll all be. Acceptance, y'all. It's a wonderful place to live in. Anyway, they go to yelling, cussing, screaming. Contessa can be very aggressive. But she's military, so she stops herself. Like, she's trying to contain herself. This isn't the place for this. Kids are here, even though they're on the inside. Your parents are here. Your siblings are here. Anila, I don't want to disrespect your mama. I don't want to disrespect your mama or your daddy and go upside this girl's head. So I'm going to remove myself from the situation. So Contessa gets up to leave. Anila grabs her arm. We know Contessa doesn't like that. I don't know why Anila, you didn't watch last year? You haven't watched? I don't think they found you out of nowhere. Contessa does not like to be touched. She definitely does not like to be detained against her will. Contessa was trying to leave. Everybody's trying to get her to stay. She won't stay. Anila's mom comes over. And it's like, no. Don't leave. You know, she doesn't want her to leave. And Contessa's like, ma'am, please let me go. Ma'am, please, ma'am. Please don't let me go, ma'am. Please let me go. Please don't make me act up. Please. So finally, her mom lets her go. Contessa and Scott leave. Scott's trying to talk her down, calm her down as they walk to the car. Back at the table, Anila is very upset because Contessa left her event. It's just, y'all, this is so... That was the end of the episode. But look, I am over these types of storylines. I'm over production trying to force people to be friends and use the new person to try to manipulate something in between the old members who don't get along. It's just, yeah. The title was right, New Year, Old Feuds. But here's the gag. We don't want to see the old feuds. We don't care. This is not interesting. This is not engaging. No one gives a doggone about Toya and Contessa being friends. Please, Bravo. Please tell us that you have more in this season other than Jackie and Simone not being friends anymore and Contessa and Toya. And Toya, I'm sad to say it, sis, but since Mariah is gone, you are now the whipping buddy. The whipping post. You're the one that they're going to gang up on. And I know you can handle it, sis. I know you come from a place where lots have been thrown at you, but I hope you're ready. Because it looks like guns will be blazing in your direction. Anyway, y'all, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the recap. Let's hope that the next episode is a little better. And I will see you all next time here on Scared of Beautiful. Again, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment. Give me your thoughts. Are you over it? Or are you here for it? See you later, guys. Bye.